What's up guys, and welcome back to Pop Beat Breakdowns. In today's video we are going to be breaking down a Charli XCX Electro Pop type beat. If you are new to this channel, hit that subscribe button as it is the best way to support the channel. What this channel is about is, as a music producer who did the academic route of going to university to learn music production, I've actually found that the best way to learn new skills, tips and tricks in music production was watching other music producers break down their own beats or instrumentals or things they've created. It was just the way that I've always been able to learn and develop myself and refine my craft. So I'm hoping with this channel to pass on to you guys. And as I said again, we are going to be breaking down a Charli XCX Electro Pop beat today. So let's not waste any time, but let's jump into Logic and let's have a look at this production. Okay, so this is the production here, and there's three main fundamentals to this beat. Again, it's electro pop. So we have the drum section, we have the bass, and we have a hell of a load of synth pads in there as well. Used a lot of track stacks for this because I wanted to mix all three of these components separately, then blend them together in the final mixdown. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go through in the order that I added things to this so you can see how I create this beat. And today was actually a little bit more of a methodical build because I was using a reference track. Constant Repeat, I believe, was the Charli XCX track that I was referencing when I did this. So I started from the drums today. I found it easier. So if we go to our drums, I started off with a kick and a snare, very similar to Constant Repeat. Today, I am using Kontact's very own Drum Lab. I choose my own sounds. For the kick, I use the rave layer, completely electronic signal going through, cutting out the acoustic signal. And for the snare, I used, whatever that says, bulky layer. Again, completely electronic. So it sounds really great. I don't actually use Kontakt drums that often, so that's why I wanted to try and use it today. And this is the kick and snare. Now what you're hearing there is I add a little bit of delay to give the snare a little bit of a bounce. I also have put the ROM reverb on both the kick and the snare as well. Not on the snare, sorry. That has its own reverb through Kontakt. But I wanted to add the ROM to try and create this sort of like massive sound because the beat in this reference track had a very like sort of like big wall of, again, like effects to it. So a very roomy, boxy sound. So again, I added a little bit of ROM reverb. This is like only very slightly mixed in with a 1.8 second. Rolled a little bit the low end off so it's not too muddy in the mix. And that's what we got. And there isn't, weirdly, any hi-hats in this track as something I'm very used to normally using. But what I did do is I layered some toms, which add in these little notes every so often. Creates really nice emphasis on the rhythm section of the track, so I added them in, and that's just the toms again from Kontakt through the Drum Lab, and I use the chorus to spread them out to the sides of the mix, so when they hit, if anyone's listening in stereo, like, it feels like they're around you. Creates a really nice sort of like tension in the song. So again, the chorus spreads it out to the sides. For those who don't know what the chorus is for Logic, it looks like this. And I've just got the intensity mixed to 100%, mix 100%, and if you can get this as close to 0 as possible, 0.033, you will be able to split a signal into two to the sides of the mix without modulating the sound too much and affecting the overall sound. So that's why I've added that in there. And again, of course, we have the ROM reverb as well. My favorite reverb, 29% with a 4.8 second decay. Very big reverb for a very big sound. Then what I've done for the crashes is I do have a reverse crash in here with a crash again. This is sampled from Splice. I love going to Splice for my drum samples from time to time. As you can hear, it's a very ambient crash that I've added in. Again, added reverb to it. I wanted there to be some sort of a transition between the verse and the chorus because there wasn't much else building it together, so we needed something in there to sort of put a stamp on the change of section, not just have it go from one section to another without any sort of real emphasis that we are in a new section going from the verse to the chorus. So that's why I added that sweep in there. And then we go on to the bass. So the bass is a blend of two different sounds. We have the 70s classic synth bass and the 90s stereo synth bass. The 70s classic synth bass you will find in Alchemy if you want to know what that looks like. So you just go into, you can go to leads or you can go into bass. It will pop up normally quite near the top. And this is what this one sounds like. Very low. Always reminds me of Weekend, Blinding Lights. Rolled off a lot of the high end because if you listen to this without that high cut that I've put on, it sounds very different. Completely changes up the sound to how I wanted it more. Then I laid that with the 90s stereo synth bass, which is a preset at the side here, so you just have to find it by going into the preset at the side, into synth, and then into bass. When you put these together, it adds a nice low end. It's very clean. There we go. Very subby. And it's also doing its own thing slightly as well, so trying to complement the kick and the snare more. This one is sort of like a counter rhythm. There you go. Just again create something a little bit more interesting in the track, so that's why I added it in there. So this is the bass and the drums together. Again, so it's got a little bit of tension to it, and I kind of like that, because Charli XCX songs can be very edgy, so I kind of wanted to convey that across in the production, hence why I've done stuff like add these toms in, make them very wet, for sort of atmosphere around, and then also have some very low subby bass in there, which is again counteracting the drums to give a little bit of movement, but keep that sort of dark feel to the track. Now we go to our wall of synths and pads. Now, there is a lot of synth arpeggios in this, as you can see, so this is how I built it. So I'll just quickly play you the synth arpeggio one by one. All of these, by the way, are presets of Logic stock. You can all find these at the side, starting with the fuzzy pluck lead. This is in the pluck section of synths. Then I blended it with this one. This is a sound that I found was a little bit similar to one of the references that I was using to build this, so I added it in. And then I've also got a high-rise pluck, so there's a lot of plucked synths been added to this, but again, this is the sort of arpeggiated melody I was going for. So this is three of them together. And then the fourth one. And all four of them together just create the sound that I want to achieve. So one thing that I do like to do is have some sort of counter melody going on to make it sound more interesting, so it's not just the one melody playing, because that can make a mix sound quite boring. So then I put the hybrid attacker in, playing a lot more of a conservative root note kind of melody. Same as this, but it adds a little bit of harmony. Makes it sound more interesting. Just have a quick listen to it without it and then with it. See the difference. So that's without. And this is with. It just suddenly sounds like there's a little bit more movement going on. So again, that's exactly what I was going for. And in the chorus, to add more development, I wanted then to add another melody, which could be a feature of a second part of a chorus. To make the chorus more interesting. So I added the noisy pluck synth. So this one. This is doing a different melody. Again, more tone to the root notes. A little bit lower, a little bit more atmospheric. Adds something in the second part of the chorus. When that's added in, you get this. And then I just add an analog waves pad just for a bit of air. That bit of top end. Something to flutter around in the mix. So then it's very nearly there. So then instrument 15, sorry. I went into contact with this one and I used glaze. Now I recently bought this and I literally cannot recommend this enough. So this is basically using vocal samples to create like pads, leads, bass, like literally everything. This is great. It's all just using like the human voice to create sound effects. And I wanted a kind of a humanistic element in the actual production of the beat, because I always feel like it adds a little bit more to the emotion and the dynamics of the song to have that in there, especially like because this, if you listen to it, it's very nice and light, but it's got movement to it already. It's got like that sort of spacey atmospheric vibe. So when you add that in there, all of a sudden the pads just take on a whole new feel, and I love it. Now, one thing I'll show you, which I did to add more development, is I used automation in this to alter the volume of the track, because you can use this as a riser while also keeping it as is. So again, like I've used a low cut frequency filter on the synth pads to add development to a song. So if we have a listen to this in action, everything together, firstly I'm gonna point you out to this, so you'll hear that the volume rises on this to add more emphasis that this is the transition into the chorus, because this here you could say is the pre-chorus of the song. And then I've also put a little filter in here to cut out some of the low end in the track, again to add a little more development, so it goes down and rises again. So this is what it sounds like fully automated. Getting louder. And that just helps with the rise of the crash, because even though the crash is technically the only riser or the sort of transition I've got in there, so doing this in that way means I can put this complete wall of synth pads and turn it into a riser itself, while also maintaining the main structural reason why it's in there, for being like part of the verse and then part of the chorus. And again, it just adds development as well. One of the key words that I always say is development. You've got to have development in a song, because there is obviously repetition here. A lot of this is due to the fact that the vocalist will be adding a lot of vocal harmonies and layers to this, which again, like it's common with a Charli XCX song, you can get very creative, this sort of thing. But when you put that all together, I'll quickly play from the start of the pre-chorus. This was the outcome when you put everything together. And there you go, guys. That was how I made a Charli XCX influence electro pop beat. If you enjoyed this video, hit that subscribe button, by the way, if that's the best way to support the channel. Let's get this to 1,000 subscribers as quick as possible. There's a lot more videos like this on the way. And also comment below any other artists' pop beats that you want me to break down. If you want to hear some of my pop beats that I will be doing in future videos but want to hear a breakdown sooner, go check out JG Beats in the link below, which is my type beat channel with all the beats on there. These are the sorts of beats that I break down for this channel, so go give them a listen. And if there's a beat that you vibe on there, comment it below and I will do a beat breakdown of that beat for you. But I'm going to leave this video there, guys, so thank you for watching, keep making music, and I will see you in the next video.